I was trying to not fill the green room up with the weirdest energy because I'm like legitimately a huge fan of you. So I was going to wait till the podcast. I was trying to wait until we got rolling to tell you about it because I've listened and watched all your specials.
Thank you.
A lot of your stuff, been following you for a long time. And I didn't know, Austin, you were friends. Last year, this time around, I was at a carnival that my father-in-law runs. And I was talking to Austin and his wife. I'm like, do you know that comedian Dave Landau? And Austin's like, yeah, I'm friends with him. And I'm like, yeah, dude, he's at the Funny Bone this weekend, and I can't go.
You were here last year.
I'm like, I can't go. And Austin's like, oh, really? He texts you like in front of me, like, hey, do you need an opener? And I'm like, oh, you're like real friends with him. And he's like, yeah. And Austin's like, do you want to go and you can meet him? And I'm like, I can't because it's a big thing for my in-laws. Like I said, they all run it and help with it. So this year I was like,
told him this year.
I was like, if Dave comes, I'm going no matter what. So here we are.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you.
And then as he walked away, his pregnant wife stood there in the middle of a fair and cried.
Yeah, that's
Really?
that part's not true.
I mean, I'm probably
my wife
holding a corn dog.
Yeah, my wife is pregnant, so it's only half a lie. But
congratulations.
Thank you. But yeah, I like I said, when you first opened up the door, I was trying to not just fill it up with tremendous awkward energy because there's
let's give a report.
Was I weird? Was I weird or not?
Yeah. I thought you weren't even a fan.
Really?
He played it that hard.
You did a good job of like, I don't think he likes me.
Oh, dude. No, like there's probably I've been
me up.
Oh, dude, yeah, no. There's not a whole lot of people who I would fan out for, but you were one of them, and I was nervous. So.
Oh no, I thought you were very cool and laid back.
All right. Ooh, there we go.
You played it well. Yeah. See, all those beatings I give you in the cellar work.
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
Well, thank you,
a lot of kicks in the nuts.
That,
so that's why when I was saying like I had a lot of questions written down, it's the truth because I'm like, I just want to ask him so many questions and was just biting my tongue until now. I did think it was weird, though, in the green room when you were doing push-ups and told me not to shake your hand.
Yeah, that was definitely... Well, I learned that from the great crowd work comic, Michael Richards.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, wait. What was the...
That was... Dave, like, walked in the green room, and he was doing push-ups and was like, don't shake my hand when we're on stage either. And Dave's like, what do I say to him? And he's like, do I say Seinfeld? And he's like, you call me washed up? Which, by the way, is so insecure.
Yes.
Is this what happened?
Yeah. It was at the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach.
And how does the rest of that story go?
Oh, well, it's so funny. He goes, you call me washed up? And I'm like, I go, dude, like he's first doing push-ups, right? And I'm going back and forth because at the Comedy Magic Club, there's a smaller room. It's in Hermosa Beach, and there's a bigger room. So, like, and there's people there like that are actually good at comedy, like Larry David, or like let's say Larry David performs there. You have like all these, and at the time it was Kevin Nealon, and I'm thinking Larry Miller. And Larry Miller, I'm a huge fan of.
Yeah.
So, and like even Larry Miller saw me perform. He's like, your jokes are great, kid. And it like meant everything to me.
Yeah.
Because all I remembered him as was like the mean guy from every movie. And I'm like, you're the nicest person. And so, yeah, Michael Richards is doing push-ups. And I go back to get his intro. And he stands up and he's like, don't you see that I'm busy? And I go, well, I'm just trying to get your intro. And he's like, he goes, what do you want? I go, to get your intro. And he goes, what do you fucking think my intro is? I go, Seinfeld? Do you want it to be Seinfeld? And he's like, you calling me a wash-up? I go, trial and error? And he's like, oh, that's funny. And I go, look, I think we got off to the wrong foot. I'm a really big fan. And I go to shake his hand. He goes, I don't do that. And I was like, okay. And he might have said that in the beginning, like it's, and I go, okay. So he's a total dick to me. And finally I go up and I bring him on stage. And I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, like it's a longer story, but ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Michael Richards. So I stand on stage with the biggest shit-eating grin, and I just put out my hand, and he begrudgingly walks on stage and has to shake it in front of everybody. And this is also after going up and doing a joke that just murders.
Yeah.
So he then goes on stage and does what I would argue to be the worst 7 minutes of comedy I have ever seen.
Was this pre or post racial meltdown?
We'll get there.
Yes.
He is then... He is taking a cocktail sword out of a drink, and he's pretending to swashbuckle like pirates with a cocktail sword. Now, I don't know why it's not murdering, but no one's responding. So
because he's not at a kid's birthday party.
Yeah, and even then,
Then the kids are like,
was he doing it like Kramer, like all weird and his head all over? Or?
no, he was doing it as himself, kind of. So it was even more unlikable. So it wasn't even the fun guy you might know from UHF.
Because if I saw Kramer doing that and being all goofy with it, I would laugh. You know?
Yeah, you would get a giggle, and I hated him at that point. I was like, it destroyed my world because I loved watching Seinfeld, and he was a hero I wanted to meet. But yeah, I think it was when he first stood up, he like brushed himself off, and I went to shake his hand.
all those years ago when you were watching Seinfeld and a huge fan, that one day you would walk in on him doing push-ups?
No, I did not.
It's so bizarre.
Oh, you talk about the level of insecure, though. That's why he's doing it, because he has no business doing stand-up. Seinfeld told him to go like out away from the city before he did it, you know. But anyway, so he gets off stage, and I run up. And I do the best I can to try to get another handshake. And he just begrudgingly pats me on the back and walks off stage. And I'm like, wasn't that great, everybody? Wasn't it great to see Michael Richards? Isn't everybody happy they saw him? Like, and
You should see him do push-ups.
dude, and Richard, the manager's looking at me, who I love. He's one of the nicest people. And he's just looking at me like shaking his head, but also half laughing because he knows it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And 2 weeks later, I'm watching TV, and lo and behold, the TMZ tape comes out, and I could have beat off. I was so happy just to watch his career. And I hear Jeff Garlin interview, and Jeff Garlin says he walks backstage, and he goes, "Tough crowd tonight." And he's like, "Do you not know what you've done?"
That's what he would say. He's that oblivious to the world.
Have you
Tough crowd. Jim Garland's
Nick's-
like, you do know your career is over.
Yeah, no kid. Nick Swartzen had a similar story where I don't know if you've ever heard of that before. I think he told on Rogan once where Swartzen was with him like the night before or like right in that time period and said the same thing. He's like, he was out there like abusing the crowd. It was not funny. People were getting weirded out. And I think Swartzen had said he basically told him like, hey, cut, you got to just get off stage.
Yeah.
So he must have been going through some real shit at that time.
I don't know what it was, because like even then when he starts calling them all the N-word, you're like, this is, and then he's like, what? But was then the tree lynching and the hit him in the ass with pitchforks, where you're
So
like,
weird.
Well, that's never, it's never going to work out now, is it?
Oh, man.
Yeah. Dave Chappelle
Turns out
has the
he was
funniest bit on
is
that
a
whole thing,
dark,
though.
dark neighbor.
Yeah.
What is
There's
that?
always busting in. He was,
Yeah,
You haven't heard what Chappelle said about that? He's like,
I probably did.
he was like, that's when I knew I'm more comedian than I am black. Because my first thought was, oh man, Kramer's having a bad set.
Yeah.
I did hear one comic. I don't know who said it, but they went out and I know they were eating it, and they just go, well, I don't know what to say about you guys that Michael Richards hasn't said already. But it really is the worst. It's like if you're so angry at an audience, though, it's like tonight when somebody yelled or whatever.
Yeah.
All I do is I'm calm, and I always talk back and like, well, I'll play with them.
Yeah.
Because I learned very early on that if you get furious, the audience will never side with you. Like, you never want to be angry unless the person really deserves it.
Yeah.
But you never want to show anger. Like, you always want to just kind of play around and just have fun.
Yeah.
Even the guy who was like kind of a problem tonight, who like kept walking in and was clearly drinking.
Yeah.
Like, I casually addressed him until he was having fun.
Yeah.
Like, you can't just get angry at a crowd member for just saying something.
Well, and you said something very subtle, which most of the audience probably didn't pick up, but you're like, hey guys, I got to do my show. And it was so like brief, it probably went over most people's heads, but that was kind of a check of like, hey, can you guys chill out?
Yeah,
you know?
just on the side. Yeah, and that was just because she was really trying to calm him.
Yeah.
And he was a disaster of a human being.
Yeah, I've only got furious one time where it wasn't even jokes. I just went insane. And it wasn't even for me. It was because it was a packed place at like a Masonic temple, those nice theaters.
Yeah, the Masonic temple, yeah.
But no one was kicking this guy out. He was just talking so loud. And I was opening for a dude that was going to play instruments. So I did him a solid and just lit this dude up to where like, oh, this kid's not joking. But then, it got like to the point where, I was like, maybe that guy will stab me in the side when I leave here. But the crowd cheered. So because he was that bad, they couldn't even hear the show. He was just a drunk maniac.
I had a lady who was probably barely even heckling when I learned that lesson. And I just went off on her, like C-word, everything. And I remember I'm walking out of the club, and this is a long time ago when I was younger, and she's like crying, and she's like, "You ruined my birthday." I'm like, "You ruined your birthday." I just felt so bad.
Yeah, that
You know, everybody's like, "You're in the right," and I'm like, but later I'm like, I wasn't. I could have handled that 1,000 different ways, and it could have been more playful.
you used excessive force.
I had to do what I did
No, I believe you.
for the American people.
I've seen when it's appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had said it was weird being a fan of like meeting Michael and being a fan of Seinfeld, and when you're watching Seinfeld not knowing that one day you're going to meet this guy. This is a weird way almost to get to the question, but you were a part of interviewing Kyle Rittenhouse like right after that was the biggest story in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, how weird is that to be like, hey, man, I'm a stand-up comedian, and now I'm talking to this kid who is fresh off the stand. Everybody's watching on TV, and now he's sitting next to you, and oddly, like, very funny, socially intelligent, like kept roasting you the whole time.
That's what we let him do. Yeah.
Was that like, were you like, this is the weirdest scenario I've ever? I mean,
it was bizarre because I didn't know what to think. Honestly, I didn't really want to do the interview, to be honest, because it's just like. The first time I heard of him, I was like, this guy's obviously like some white supremacist. I believed what I originally heard.
Yeah.
Then I saw every tape.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this kid was attacked.
Yeah.
Adults had him there to guard this lot.
Yeah.
He's a kid.
Yeah.
And then I was sitting in my car right before the interview, and I fell for him finally, Mm-hmm. And I looked over and I go, oh, there's a kid with 2 dogs, a child, like a young kid. And I realized, I'm like, oh, that's Kyle Rittenhouse.
Wow.
And he had 2 dogs with him, and I'm like, this is terrible,
Yeah.
So when he came in, I go, dude, just kind of make fun of us. I'm like, just go with me and Crowder and just do that, and we can have fun. And that's why whenever he went at me, I was like, whoa, shots fired. Making jokes like that were more in jest, because I didn't want to go at him hard. He'd already dealt with enough.
Yeah.
And he had been hurt so much by the media at that point.
Yeah.
And I watched the trial, and I saw what they were doing to him, this like complete public lynching. And he shot a child molester who had just got out of prison.
Yeah.
He was screaming the N-word, and the guy tried to kill him.
Yeah.
The other guy tried to kill him.
Yeah.
And he shot him in self-defense, and we saw all the videos, but we were told that he was doing this as like this die-hard race, and it was all this lie.
Yeah.
And he was used as a scapegoat by people on The View, people in Hollywood, and I fell for it too at the beginning, honestly. And that's what bothered me the most was, he brought a gun across state lines. He didn't. It was all these lies.
Yeah.
And that's why he ended up being
And
cleared.
even if he did, what does that mean? Nothing. You
Right.
know?
And when even watching the trial, when they're talking about being a responsible gun owner, one of the best parts was when the actual prosecutor is pointing the gun at the jury.
Yeah.
And I'm crying laughing at this guy. And it was surreal, because I wanted to make it more comfortable for him, even if it was more at me, because people are like, he took some shots at you. I was like, yeah, I know. That's what I wanted.
Exactly.
We both wanted that, because he was a kid, and I saw a kid who was in a lot of trouble.
Yeah.
And in that moment, we wanted to kind of ease that for him.
Yeah.
And I have to give credit to Crowder where it's due.
Yeah.
He had him on the show, and it wasn't really so much about publicity, because he had invited him even before the Tucker interview.
Yeah.
It was really just like, you're welcome to come on the show, when it seemed like nobody wanted to touch him.
Yeah.
And he was like the first person to reach out and be like, look, we'll have you on because we believe your story.
Yeah.
And he did Tucker first, which I don't blame him. He had to do a larger national show than something that was kind of,
where someone's wearing a detective holster.
when someone's wearing a detective holster. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt like that was some of your best work, Dave. Like you were hilarious in that throughout the whole interview, but it was interesting just to see him be a kid, dude. I mean, he was a 17-year-old kid, making jokes and kind of being comfortable.
Responsible young lad. 2 dogs at 17?
Yeah. No,
what would happen to your dogs, Dave? If you were driving around with them in the back of a car?
Yeah.
I sold their heads for speed.
But I just was thinking about
You'd
it.
still be talking to them.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just thinking
Thank
about
God I
how.
didn't have dogs at 17.
Yeah.
Actually, it probably would have kept me off the street. I would have had something that loved me unconditionally. That's what I left the house looking for.
That's why
was love.
That's why DMX, that's what got him through it. He lived on the streets with his dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If somebody had a
He's like, because he was like, Mom, I hate you. And then he went and lived in a ditch with some dogs.
yeah, dude, I totally get that.
The DMX lore. Yeah, I was just thinking, because it's like you do something like the Crowder Show and you're making jokes and all this, and now all of a sudden you got this kid who's got the biggest case in the world, and you're like, okay, we're a little bit past like skits right now, and now we're talking about some serious shit.
Yeah, yeah, and you're looking at a kid who, and I don't want, because I don't. It's not murder. It's killed.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
killed 2
Did I say
people.
murder?
No, not you.
Okay.
No,
all
I'm
right,
saying how they painted it.
Yeah,
not
yeah,
you,
yeah.
not you,
Yeah,
not at all
okay,
correcting you. I'm saying he killed people in defense.
Yeah, yeah.
And when you watch it, it's like these people are really trying to kill. They're trying to murder this kid.
Yeah.
And he kills them in self-defense. And anybody can go at it and say however they want, but I watched the whole trial, and
Yeah.
as somebody who had to cover it, I was like, this is crazy the way that they're painting it.
Amazing trigger control,
And-
by the way. Just I don't know how he did it. Like you're 17 with an adrenaline, and
Dude,
Video games.
yeah.
Dude, I thought it was
Fortnite.
a thug. I don't think I would have had the ability to do it. I mean, I guess, and I even told him though, like even with the guy on the trial, on the stand, and the pedo, like even in the interview, I was like, but what luck, I mean, it turns out they were pedos, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's like you didn't know at the time, but I mean, just great. It's almost like God sent him. Right
Dude, I laughed so hard.
I remember when you said that.
I laughed so hard at that part because I think he even made a face like because he was like trying to not
he's
say.
really trying not to laugh at the fact that he. But it's like, come on.
The prosecutor's like, look at this tape. He's just laughing wildly.
Yeah.
Well, the guy fell out of the chair who tried to kill him, and Kyle's laughing, and it's like he's 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a guy fell out of a chair. That's all that's about.
100%.
And I felt for the kid in that moment. I don't know how he is now. I don't know where he's going. But I feel that in that moment, that was a kid who he had every right to sue The View. They painted him as something that he wasn't, and it's nice to see that at least something paid off in the end for that.
Yeah.
Because everybody lied about what he was for an agenda.
Yeah.
Him and Zimmerman are probably living with the Amish.
That's probably,
Could-
well, yeah, Zimmerman's kind of a turd, though. In every way to me.
Yeah, I don't
It's like, look, you watch a Neighborhood.
Yeah.
You're not even a cop. You just got out and decided to wrestle a black kid. It's like, stay in your car.
Yeah.
Just go home.
Yeah, like,
Why aren't
Yeah.
you going
why do you
home?
even have a gun?
Yeah. He's looking at the fence.
Yeah.
And I don't like how anybody goes at that with that young man who died that day. Like, I don't side with that at all. They're like, well, he started it with the guy. And it's like, what? And they're like, he had Skittles and soda. I'm like, yeah, wow. Stop pretending it was drugs. They're like, well, you can make a drug with that. I'm like, you can't.
Yeah. I've tried.
Yeah. I've tried.
Yeah, Zimmerman's
doesn't
a
work.
jackass.
Well, you don't even strike me as like a very, and I could be wrong, as like a very political guy as much as you're just somebody who can look at society and be honest that this shit's funny. And so many people, we were just talking about the other day, they always say, oh, you couldn't make this anymore. And it's like, no, you can. You're just afraid. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And there's too many people who are afraid to try to be funny.
Dude,
know?
that's the perfect way to put it is I just say make it. I
Yeah.
just say do the joke.
Yeah.
Comedy is comedy. Like there's no reason to keep dancing around everything. There's
Yeah.
and I'm not like a political person. That's why it was so odd to me. Like I got the Artie and Anthony show, which was, oh, congratulations.
Mm-hmm.
Then it just became me and Anthony. And it was like, well, I see how his takes or something. It's like you would have given your right nut to be on Opie and Anthony.
Oh, yeah.
Stop it. And then it was like I got on Crowder and people disowned me that were supposedly friends.
Yeah.
And I'm
Comic friends?
Comic friends, yeah.
have to-
None of my real friends from.
But I'm
like,
curious.
growing
I'm
up.
curious too, like after.
Afterwards, we'll have
Unless
you
you
write
want
them
to
down in
just talk about
alphabetical
them if you're
order.
not friends.
Oh, I mean, I wouldn't name all of them, but I had friends that were like, "Look, I don't know what you're doing, but this is wrong." And I'm like, "Why?" Because
Yeah.
you read a Media Matters clip, which, by the way, Media Matters is owned by George Soros. That's not made up.
Yeah.
It's literally a company made to it destroys America.
Yeah.
But you don't want to do any research because you think I'm an idiot because I brought up George Soros and nothing's been brought.
And they're like, but I read the headlines.
Yeah, they're like, listen,
That's
man,
all.
That's nothing more than a frightening word, and everything that you're saying is fake. That's why everything's been shut down. We've been imprisoned in our homes, and there's nothing left of our country because it's all pretend. And you're like, you're right. What was I thinking? Put on a mask and get on a plane. Like, can you even grasp the fact that what is considered liberal, which is what I would think that I am, is now the people that are championing the government.
Yeah.
They're the ones that are saying, listen to everything that the people control us say, because they have our best interest at heart.
Yeah, they're a bunch of weird cucks who want to be dominated. And you know what I mean? And it's like, it's so
Not
bizarre.
only that, but they're like, down with the old white man, and then they elect the oldest, whitest man on earth.
Yeah, ever.
Yeah. Who's like,
And no one can see the irony
who's
of this
constantly saying racial slurs, and they're like, do, 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 do.
Yeah, they're like, he didn't mean that.
Yeah. It's
And
like-
then I saw a coloring book in downtown Omaha, and it was it was called like Sexy Joe Biden.
Wow.
And every picture was him and like a shirtless in some sort of scenario with like a raging 6-pack and huge pecs. And I'm like, dude, he's never been good looking once.
No.
He had the Homer Simpson haircut back in like the 80s with just like the strands.
Well, and it's funny because you can go back to the 80s and he's saying stuff that's so racist for the 80s.
Yeah.
I know, that's what I mean.
Well, he was one of the
And
guys
he's
that
like-
busted. What was it? Why am I blanking on his name now? The black Supreme Court justice.
Yeah, it was
Thomas. Is it Thomas Clarence?
Clarence Thomas.
Yeah, Clarence Thomas. I don't know why I just went blank on there.
I think
but-
that's a
used
name
to
you can say.
attendance.
That's a name you can say either way. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Clarence Thomas, but he was like one of the biggest assholes to Clarence Thomas to get him in, and then all of a sudden he's like, "I'm gonna have all black this and that," and it's like, why did you work so hard? You only like them when you only like minorities if they're on your team, apparently, and you know.
And Clarence Thomas owned him.
Yeah.
And even SNL, like you talk about somebody like Dennis Miller, and I've done his show and I like him, and it's like he would talk about, they go, we thought you were liberal, and he goes, no, I was making fun of who was in power. That's what you do.
Right.
Yeah.
And that all of a sudden stopped at some point. you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And even when that happened, they made fun of the Democrats, where like you had Dana Carvey playing those like all the Democrats being like, well, women prefer a more softer porn, like where they're talking. And it's like Clarence Thomas made a joke about a pube on a pop can.
Yeah.
And it ended up being this huge, like horrible
Yeah, so
thing where they were
stupid.
trying to drag him through the mud.
Yeah.
Where this guy came from very, very humble beginnings to work
yeah.
for what he had.
Oh yeah, I've read his book.
Yeah.
And do you read a lot, by the way?
I do.
I could tell because, for one, I mean, just you even ordering David Gunn's book while we were like live on the air, but even you had a joke that probably went over 97% of people's heads when you were talking to Kyle. Well, you said, Kyle, what did you read in jail? And I thought that was an interesting question in and of itself. And then you said something like the Turner Diaries. And I was like, I don't even know if I should explain what the Turner Diaries is, because we'll probably get a strike on YouTube.
Yeah,
But that was but that was a funny joke that probably went over everyone's head in the room. But has that always been a part of your personality, or where'd you pick that up?
Yeah, when I was young, my parents were both people that just read a lot.
Nice.
My dad always was a reader.
Yeah.
My mom was, and they just had every book imaginable like in the house. And
Yeah,
I just
yeah.
kind of picked it up when I was young.
Yeah.
And I was more interested and always have been about real stories and history and biographies.
Yeah.
So like when I was a kid, my dad was in Vietnam, so it's interesting. I shoot my show where the movie JFK was filmed.
Oh, wow.
And my dad took me to see JFK when I was 9. So I knew about like assassination stuff and
Yeah.
all kinds of crazy things. And it's like, just because he wanted me to know history. So I knew this crazy amount of history when I was young. And it's always fascinated me because everything that's happened, and even trying to erase that, like people are trying to do, is just wrong on every level to me.
Yeah.
But I find it all to be so important. Like, and I love reading biographies and what people actually did. Like, I love movies because they're cinematically beautiful, but I don't find a made up story. It's just not fun
Yeah,
for me. It's
yeah.
like, oh, yeah, you thought of this, but then if you read the thing that actually happened,
Yeah.
it's so fascinating because
Yes.
it's always worse and scarier.
It is
and
always
there's a-
worse.
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
always a lesson in it. And because I remember sitting there when I was about 10, And I'm looking up, and I was trying to read Christine, the book, and I'm like, this is the longest, most ridiculous thing. And there's a book called Helter Skelter that my dad had. And
I'm reading that right now because
Yeah.
we just did an episode on Laurel Canyon. I don't know if you've ever heard of those conspiracy theories,
yeah.
but I got that and a couple other Manson books, and was going to read it.
Watson is
And-
texting him regularly.
No,
Seriously?
but here's the deal, and I'm not joking. During your show tonight, I got a message from Bruce Davis of the Manson family because
Really?
we interviewed him for the Laurel Canyon episode, and they're like big born again Christians and just kind of like roll with it. And I told him, hey, we're doing a podcast. Me and a buddy of mine met at church doing this podcast, and so Bruce agreed to do the interview. Tex didn't want to like go on camera or anything, but he messages me, and it's pretty much just like Bible verses and stuff like that. Like, they just talk about the Bible and Christianity. But yeah, during your show tonight, afterwards, when I check my phone, it's like, you have a message from Bruce Davis. That's crazy. So yeah, but I'm actually reading. I'm reading like Helter Skelter, just like a variety of different viewpoints on it, because I want to do an episode on that, because that was such a cultural changing event which impacted art and so many things. But
Brian Wilson. And
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
so many connections to it.
yeah.
And it really is a fascinating point in history.
Yeah.
You know, they went to the wrong house. They killed Roman Polanski's wife.
Yeah.
In reality, and people probably will get pissed, but it's like, don't you deserve some level of forgiveness after this amount of time? I
Yeah.
forget.
Yeah, they're
her
90.
name.
That Bruce Davis is 89.
Yeah, and the one woman they want to release, and people
I
are
think she
upset
got
about
out.
it.
Yeah,
Well, Colleen
Did she
was
get
saying
out?
that,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
'cause
she
I
just
know
did.
It just happened, right?
Yeah, like the week that she was released, I was driving to Austin's and I got a phone call from Bruce Davis. And he's like, "Hey, buddy," and he was like, "I said, when do you get your next shot at being out?" And he's like, "Well, they just I don't even know her name, but they just let her
Yeah.
out, so I'm thinking I might have a good chance this December." I'm like, "All right, cool," but yeah,
I mean, it's terrible, but it's like at the same time, you know, Roman Polanski didn't exactly do good things.
yeah,
He did
to
young
say
things.
the least.
Yeah, well, he also
Against their will.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
he was. You know, the girl did say that even all these years later, like, no, I went there to do that, and it's totally consensual.
Yeah. He's a
Like,
weird little
she's never-
bastard,
yeah.
but yeah,
Yeah, that's because Roman's like, I'm going to let Charlie out.
yeah,
Yeah.
But
He's coming for you.
were you? Did you have a story with that though about the Helter Skelter book? You said that.
No, I remember reading it, and it was the first time, like, I was trying to read Stephen King books.
Okay, yeah,
Because
yeah.
I've always had some interest in horror. I think
Yeah.
everybody does at a young age. Like, I've noticed that with my son, but I
course.
try
Yeah,
to keep him.
I kept him from it, but it's like a fascination.
It is, and
It's like, what is this death thing?
Yeah.
I think it's a fascination in death, and then you're interested in being a teenager, so you kind of
Yeah.
have an interest in that.
And scary
teenage
stuff
years.
is like, why is there things that are scary? Like when they first, start
Absolutely.
learning that the world is a disaster.
Well, yeah, and Halloween is your first curiosity.
Yeah.
And I read Helter Skelter, and I was starting to read that, and I was like, this is the craziest book. And then I was explained that it wasn't fake.
That's
Who told you that it wasn't fake?
Probably my mom. to
this
be
guy's got a
honest.
crazy
You're like,
imagination.
this is real life.
Yeah, like, this is a real thing.
and
I
that's
started
when they
reading
just
it.
went to the liquor cabinet.
Yeah.
Well, that's
pulled the double.
Yeah, that's kind of your fault. There's crime scene photos in the book. So.
Yeah. Oh, no, there are. Yeah.
Yeah,
And this was like I wish I still had it, because it was probably like first edition.
Yeah.
You know, like they had everything, but they always cared a lot. Like they didn't shelter much from me
Yeah.
at all. Like I remember it was when Philadelphia came out, and I wasn't very familiar with even sex, obviously, at that age. And I'm just watching.
And you were
this
20
movie.
at the time?
Yes, I was 20. It was my 22nd birthday, actually. And I had just brought home my gay lover. It's like, I think it was 10. And we were like, oh, let's watch Philadelphia. Tom Hanks is in it from Turner and Hooch and Big.
Yeah.
So I'm watching like my favorite comedic actor die of AIDS on
Slowly.
screen. And I'm just sitting there like not understanding, like a tear's coming out of my eye. My mom's horrified. My dad's making a face like he's not okay with me saying this, but he's not saying anything.
Yeah, he's like, do I shut it off or
Like,
does that make
he's
it
like-
weird?
He's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm supposed to say, look, Like, they deserved it. Not that he would. I'm completely kidding. But
Just said stop.
yeah, it was like they always made me very aware of what was going on in the world. And
Yeah.
I think it was a good thing.
Yeah.
And I don't do the same with my son necessarily, but if
You
I
can
feel
in this
he's-
world. There's no way.
Yeah, and like, but I was like, oh, I remember my dad taking me to see Terminator 2, and so I showed him Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And he loved every second of it.
Yeah.
He didn't repeat any bad words.
Nice.
He just saw it as this really cool movie, and I was like, okay, you have the same interest in cinema that I did, so I think it's a good thing to have some idea of what the world is around you, even when you're young.
Yeah. Of
You know.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I've been thinking about Terminator 2 is probably one of my favorite movies.
It's still
Because you like when that
great.
came out, do you even remember like that was the most
I
blown
saw it
away
in the
I've
theater
ever
with my dad.
I've ever been.
My
I'm
brother
just
and I
like,
went, yeah.
My parents, I saw it at home. They were like, because I, could hear it down it was calling to me,
Yeah.
bad to the bone. And I came down and I was like, "This is the shirtless guy."
Dude, it was the
And they're like, take a seat. So I think I've been waiting so long to watch it with my son because I know he's gonna love it.
Dude, I saw it when I was 9. My son's 8, and my dad brought us to the theater, and I sat there with my dad, and I was blown away. It was the first thing that you CGI, and like,
Yeah.
it wasn't even in it for the language. I just remember being a little frightened where the guy, poked, the eyeball.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Yeah, but my dad explained it. He goes, those are twins. And it was like my dad would teach me how movies work because he knew I love film. Like my dad had a Zenith camcorder I'd been playing with since I was 5.
Yeah.
So he would like find like tapes at like the video store or like books, and he would show them to me of like how movies worked.
Yeah.
And I did the same because my son wanted to watch Poltergeist. And I was like, it's PG, and I hadn't seen it in years. And I was-
dude, the PG. That's how
Austin
we
talks about that movie
Yeah.
specifically all the time.
Yeah, about why I hate horror films. Pet Cemetery, Poltergeist, the ones that are like, this one's PG, it's a family affair. I'm never gonna sleep again.
kids' shoes with feet still in them. You're like, oh, that's fine.
Yeah, my parents come in to say goodnight. I just got construction lights set up with my eyes duct tape open. I'm just screaming.
Yeah, dude, it's terrifying, and I watched that with him, but nothing scared him in the movie. And I remember when the skulls are coming up in the pool,
Yeah.
and he's like, I'm like, why are you laughing?
Yeah.
And but he was terrified of the clown, and he admitted it right after he watched it. He goes, okay, the clown did scare me, and I said, oh. So I found a video on how they made the clown and how it like
Nice.
stretched out, and he
Yeah,
watched.
yeah.
He's like, oh, that's really. So he was so interested in special effects after
Right.
that, it didn't scare him at all.
That's
like he
awesome.
was so interested, and I think that was an interesting thing because I just saw the PG label and I was like, oh, I guess it's not that scary. Then I was partway into it and I'm like, oh right, they didn't have PG-13 then, and this is terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's what
they're
it is.
like, does that girl actually die in the movie? That's how scary it
Well,
was.
it's part 3 after she had impacted bowels. God knows how that happened with Hollywood producers.
Yeah, I mean, they're all celibate.
So, what did your dad? What branch of the military was your dad in Vietnam?
Army.
What was he? Just like infantry, army, or
He was infantry, and then he stayed on as a medic after.
okay? And he was exposed to Agent Orange,
Yes.
which doesn't Marilyn Manson have that same background? Like his dad.
He could.
I thought that he I could be completely recalling this wrong, but I thought in his book he says that he was like in a special school for kids who
Who are retarded.
kids who were impacted by their parents being exposed to like Agent Orange.
It's very possible.
Yeah. So
I know a lot of people that were. My dad's best friend, who was a Marine, did everything that he could to help my dad.
yeah,
And he runs this VA hospital. The problem was my mom, who was massively proud or depressed, bipolar, all these things, never filled out the paperwork right.
I see.
And she did it twice, and that's kind of why they denied it.
Huh.
And then he did everything. His last name is LeBranch. He's a really good human being. He's helped out a lot of soldiers.
Yeah.
He's helped them get a lot of money who really deserved it. And at this point, like my brother and I have even said, like if they ever paid us what we're owed, which is $400,000, which is 10% of what he lost,
Wow.
paying out of pocket, we would just donate that probably to a family.
Yeah.
Because right now it's just because there's a lot of people that need it now that it's not even about that. It's just the fact that they killed our father and took no responsibility for it whatsoever.
Yeah.
And that war was a completely unjustified war.
Yeah.
Started
do you ever,
by Jim Morrison's dad.
Yeah.
Was it really?
His dad was in the submarine. Was the captain of the submarine that popped it
Or
off.
the ship.
Yeah. What was that? The Gulf. Was it?
Yeah, the Gulf of Tonkin.
Yeah.
Jim Morrison's dad
I
was the
didn't know
captain.
Yeah, dude. Jim Morrison's dad has a Wikipedia page.
So is he a psyop?
That's what. Laurel Canyon, man.
The Laurel Canyon book. Weird,
that's
weird
the
scenes
one.
inside
Yeah.
the canyon.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
You
check
gotta
out
read
our.
that.
I'll have
I
Austin
thought you
send
were
the
talking
link.
about the murders. Okay.
No,
it's all
like all of these bands from Laurel Canyon all have a very weird
They're,
backstory.
all their parents are from military intelligence.
Will
Yeah.
you send that to me?
Yeah, we'll send it to you, and people should check it out. What is it, episode 3? I mean, we
Yeah.
call it's called like Laurel Canyon on Toolshed Art Club, but
Okay.
And then we
Thinking of a
asked Bruce.
different
He asked
thing.
Bruce Davis like, "Tell us about like Laurel Canyon thing." Laurel Canyon, never been there.
yeah, we're
yeah.
so
I've been there.
because here's the thing.
Never heard of it.
No,
The-
weird. I was there for a while.
So
Where's
the
this at?
the idea
The
is
whiskey? Never heard of it.
yeah, a lot of people were getting killed there at that time.
The whiskey a hoo hoo.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Never performed there once. Ride the what? Snake? I've never heard of snakes.
Yeah. No, the idea is that a lot of people were getting killed by the CIA. So when I asked Bruce Davis about Laurel Canyon, he's like, "Never been there," and and it's like, dude, you were the maybe not him specifically, but the Manson family was known to hang out there,
Yeah.
like live there. And he's like, "Nope, don't know about that." But he'll talk about pretty much everything. So I gotta give everyone the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to.
No, I must have taken some acid there.
Yeah.
Which we call truth serum, which was given to us by our dads.
But so do you
Explains
ever?
why the doors suck.
No, they were the better one out of a lot of those bands back then. So I could never get into
like
Janis
a lot
Joplin.
of their. I like a lot of their.
I like a
songs.
lot
I
of.
think,
I like a lot of the music.
right.
Like
Yeah.
when Jim Morrison died, it's sad they went under because it's like you didn't
Yeah.
lose the talent, you just lost the idiot.
Could you guys were like
Yeah.
that dude with the Ray with the organ? Everyone's
Yeah.
like, no, we don't do no organs.
Yeah,
He's
no,
just
yeah.
organist out of
Yeah,
work.
organist.
No one wants the organ.
Yeah. They're like, yeah, you got the guy who pulls out his penis. Also, he dies at 27 and looks 52. He's morbidly obese.
I know that's so weird, is it not?
How do you fall off like that?
Yeah,
Dude.
what do you think
The
about?
fat bearded Jim Morrison. It's the best one.
It is the best one.
What about Frank Zappa? Like,
I
'cause
love Frank Zappa.
you do.
You don't think I should? I do, though.
Here's
I'm not
the-
gonna
that's
lie.
fine. Hold on. I just want to say, Dave.
Like, I love the music of Frank Zappa.
But here's the deal. You can be honest with us. You don't have to pretend. Like, you can be honest that you
No, I
secretly
do.
don't
Like,
like
if
Frank
there's-
Zappa.
No, I did like Frank Zappa.
You don't have to pretend, Dave. It's okay.
No,
you can just tell us the truth.
I know most people hate.
Dave, tell us the truth.
No, I like Frank Zappa. I thought he was a great guitar player.
So I was telling him in the
It's
episode.
like Tom Waits. You might think I don't like Tom Waits, but I genuinely do. I even played a song of his at my
What's
dad's
like a
funeral.
good Frank Zappa song?
No, you sound like a true fan, so you got to let us know your.
Yeah,
favorite
tell us like a
songs.
song that will make me like Zappa. And the reason why we're saying this is in the episode I said that after reading about the Laurel Canyon conspiracies, I was free to not
He was
pretend to like
basically
him.
like the main handler, the log cabin. It had underground tunnels.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa was?
Yeah, he was like, you got to read this book.
Like
dude."
people, there's
His
a guy
dad
who
was.
But then
like,
he went into politics. I've interviewed Dweezil. I liked Dweezil too.
So
Yeah.
there's a guy who bought Zappa's
crazy.
house and found like he moved a bookcase and there's a stairwell and he went down it and it was connected to all the other houses in the neighborhood and it was Zappa's old house and then the house burnt down.
Yeah.
So
a lot of
Is this
houses
reliable?
burned down in Laurel Canyon.
oh,
Yeah.
dude, the author David McGowan of this book.
It's just facts. Like, because he researched the whole thing. Because I'm like, I've read this book like 3 times and
Can I
listened to it.
pull out
'cause
my
it's-
phone during an interview?
Yeah, I don't care.
So
I
okay,
want to see. What?
here's the deal. The book is called Weird Scenes Inside the Canyon. It
So you
took
always said that
me.
at the same time.
It should have taken
I'm
me.
buying it right now.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes. I love when you just buy books. Like,
Yeah, dude,
right
that's
now
a true
because I
flex.
love
But I want to know this. If
Yeah,
this is
dude.
real.
So here's the deal. It took me weeks to read this book, and it should have taken me 2 days because I would read a paragraph and then I'd have to Google what he said, and he would leave out like the most sensational parts of the story. Like it was worse than what he said. And when you think, like, just the intro had me hooked because he just lays out the narrative of like, remember how?
He's also hilarious, dude.
Yeah,
Like, not even if it's in just the way he says things, like, "Oh, no big deal, just another suicide."
Yeah.
because the cops found this one singer, and he was beaten and bludgeoned and shot and then doused with gasoline, and the cops were like, suicide.
Yeah, and that's how a lot of those stories are. Did you find
the most insane
Yeah, did
death,
you find
dude?
the book?
I did, yes.
Yeah, it's insane. So one of the things that I'd said was being a musician in high school, I would say I had musical influences even if I didn't, if they sounded cool. So I would tell people I liked Frank Zappa even though I secretly didn't.
No, I understand that because I've done that with bands many times.
Yeah.
Here's why I like Frank Zappa. Because when I was young, I started doing drugs, and I liked what it was.
There it is.
Okay, and then it was the same as the Doors, though. I told everybody I liked the Doors, and I just admitted I did not.
Yeah.
And Frank Zappa, I was like, "Oh, this is crazy. He's on a ton of drugs," and I found out he didn't do drugs at all.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of interesting.
that is interesting.
Because
yeah.
he seemed, like Muffin Man and stuff like that. There were like these bizarre songs, and I kind of liked that he was avant-garde at the time for even a time that was trying so desperately to be avant-garde.
That's because he was probably full military.
Yeah, of course. He was.
You got to read the thing.
Yeah, it's a psyop.
Dude,
man.
okay,
But like
so
Dancing Fool, like I don't know, I just don't.
At the top of Laurel Canyon.
I'm gonna read this crap out of this book.
Dude,
I just
We'll do
bought.
that and then let's do a Zoom. Let's do a Zoom interview after you read it.
After you read
I'm
it,
gonna
we
hate
just
him
got to
now.
talk to you.
I guess I can go back and listen, and
Yeah.
maybe I'll tell you later. I don't, but he was good at guitar, and like, was he not?
I did see someone.
Okay, my whole thing was, right, I said that I never liked, I didn't like Frank Zappa before the book, only because when I was in high school, that's what, like, if kids got into guitar or a bass, you'd go
Well, it's
over to
like
your
saying
buddy's house and he's like, Zappa, man.
Yeah,
and I
have
would
you
have
ever heard of
friends like
Zappa?
play me music, and I was like, I don't know
Detroit
what
wasn't
this
that
is.
though, because we were all into hip hop and stuff.
Yeah.
So we didn't really discuss that. Like for that, it was more. It's like if somebody says Neil Peart for the best
Yeah.
drummer, but Neil Peart's still a good drummer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like I can't say that. If you say that, it's like, yeah, he's really talented though.
Well, someone did. So I had posted clips of me shitting on Zappa on our Instagram, and someone sent me a guitar solo from him, and I was like, okay, that was actually pretty good.
That's what I mean. Like I think he's really talented.
Yeah,
But
it was.
I guess
funny,
that
but-
doesn't mean that he's not this.
Yeah. So yeah, we should. You really should read it, and then we'll do a Zoom afterwards and see what you say.
Yeah.
Did you ever? Because so with your dad being in Nam.
I mean, I like Slum Village from Flint. So.
Yeah, you do. I just like how you and David Gunn are like, oh yeah, the death fights.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we're just from like the cornfields of
Yeah.
Nebraska.
Well,
We're
like,
I've seen a fight, but it wasn't a death match.
Well, like growing up in Detroit, like I grew up on Motown and soul music and like R&B and then rap and then also like everything. So it's like I never really. So like stuff like that was a little more rock and avant-garde. Like we weren't into as much stuff as I guess you guys would be. So like the Doors.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is cool because we took acid. And then I'm like, I really don't like this.
I don't know.
Dude, okay. I have a confession
What's
about
that?
the Doors because I really got into him probably about like 20 or 21.
Yeah.
And I was already doing stand-up at that time. And then I started just listening to all their music. Like I like the poetry of a lot. Like it was just weird.
Yeah, yeah.
Of
You know?
Jim Morrison's?
Yeah, like where
Yeah, I
it's
went
like
to a-
awake.
None of it makes sense. It's all
Shake dreams from your hair, my pretty child.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what is this? And
That's
but
what
then
a phony writes.
I bought after I read all the books, I bought a pair of those like boots that he would wear with the straps, and then I'd get real drunk.
Do you know what I hate?
That's what you do when you're a kid. You're like impressional, like just act like an idiot. That's how
This
we
is
see
the
your-
end.
And I can admit that, yeah, I was influenced. You know, yeah.
The worst.
I am the Lizard King.
Mother, I want to.
Yeah,
I don't want to yell it because my mom actually watches the podcast and she'll be very
What-
concerned if I finish that.
I will
lyric.
edit that straight out.
The line from the Doors movie where it's like, does life imitate art or does art imitate Andy? It makes you want to shoot the TV. Like Elvis seeing Robert Goulet on it.
You made it when you're talking about Detroit. You,
Dude, I do like that movie. Oliver
Elvis
Stone's.
movie? Oh, The Doors?
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Going back to that.
I did when I saw it when I was younger.
Me too,
and
yeah,
I
when you're in
think
high school, it's-
Yeah, I don't know if I like anything Oliver Stone's done
Dude,
now.
I like some of the
JFK is
cinematic
good.
shots of The Doors is awesome. Like the beginning,
Yes.
Riders on the Storm.
Well, Val Kilmer's great.
And then
Oh,
the
yeah.
scene when he's like 5 to 1, where like no one here. That whole scene of getting out and he's like lighting his girlfriend on fire in the closet. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, this guy's nuts.
Well, the peyote scene's good. I do like. Have you ever read the Natural Born Killers script that Tarantino wrote?
Oh no.
Like, there's a reason he didn't go to the premiere because he's like, wow, you took out the whole romance and like the whole thing.
I've read the original script of 8 millimeter, which was similar to like the Natural Born Killers one. I haven't actually read the original Natural Born Killers though.
It's really good.
Yeah.
And then you're like, you kind of look at it and go, and I actually don't mind Natural Born Killers, but you kind of look at it and go, how did you get this from that? Like, at least
really, I
what I remember at the time when that came out, I remember Quentin Tarantino being pissed that Oliver Stone had made Rodney Dangerfield's character like a blatant pedo.
Yeah.
You know, and it was supposed to be like subtle or whatever. And he just came out and he's like, I'm for him. That's why I couldn't even watch Rodney Dangerfield's stand-up. Because I saw Natural Born Killers before I started watching stand-up, and I'm like, it's the eyes.
Thank God I knew him when I, like, look at my shirt.
I know you're wearing a shirt.
I grew up on Dangerfield because my dad, like, that was who my dad was, one-liner after one-liner. So I knew him as a guy from The Tonight Show, so I always loved him.
Yeah.
Thank God. Because, when I saw that, it was weird, because it was like, go upstairs and wash yourself. And, you know,
I'm like,
go up there and see how clean you are. And I was like, oh, my Lord.
Yeah, it's like, God, did you read this script?
Yeah, sir.
And I get Tarantino's point because he's like, this isn't what, and then he shot it like a sitcom.
Yeah.
So when he's like grabbing
and there's
her,
laughing and all
there's
that,
like
it was so disturbing.
It is
and
weird.
Tarantino's like, this isn't like True Romance. He's like, you understood what I was trying to make. Like, arguably, he probably made the scene with Walken and Dennis Hopper probably better than Tarantino even could. But it was not. It was not the same.
Yeah, it's not the same.
Anyway, we're getting off track.
No, it's. Would you ever read books about Vietnam with your dad being there? Did you ever like read any books on that? Like We Were Soldiers Once and Young, or
I saw We Were Soldiers. I don't know what. I mean, I've read books of the time period. I've watched a ton of movies on it with my dad. Like, I remember watching Apocalypse Now, and my dad's just like, you'd be court-martialed for that. Like, you watch, like, Platoon, and it's, like, an ear necklace.
Yeah.
Okay, then
what did dead presidents, it's like, you're going to put a head in your backpack.
What about Rambo?
Actually, the original Rambo is very accurate to somebody who has PTSD.
Yeah.
When part 2 comes out, you're like, how's this the same guy?
Yeah.
I know, like 2 and 3.
How about the last one when the author denounced the movie and Sylvester Stallone for life because he cuts a man's heart out and then kills people in underground tunnels he dug to a door song?
Dude.
Oh, you mean Rambo Last Blood? When he crucifies a guy with a bow and arrow?
Dude, and I love that movie. I honestly do.
Dude,
Yeah.
I love it too.
Yeah.
I mean, when he gets the cartel to chase him back and then Home Alone's him.
Yeah, dude, in the underground tunnels he dug. What do you do, Uncle Rambo? Dig.
Yeah, and then
That's
he
always
hands her
wonder-
a knife this big, and she's like, "What is it?" He's like, "It's a letter opener."
Yeah.
He Home Alone's him. That is.
Where's Uncle Rambo? He's in the tunnels again.
And I love the one right before it. That's in the jungle.
Oh, dude.
Where you meet the love interest, and 4 seconds later, she's gunned down by people on the other boat. And I am not exaggerating by the time.
Dude,
I laughed out loud.
I did
too. In the theater.
She is murdered brutally.
I have this friend, and James, and he's like, back when we were younger, anytime like an action movie came out, he's like, go to this movie with me. Yeah. Because any insane, gratuitous violence, and I am laughing so hard that like everyone in the theater will just start laughing at something no one should laugh at. Like you're making Rambo a comedy. Because you're right. You're like, what is happening? When he's just mowing down and he kills the whole army.
Oh, it's the best.
With the
and he like
their bodies are just like exploding.
Oh, dude, it's wild. No, I was just curious because I've read a lot on Vietnam. My mom's uncle died in Vietnam, and I don't know if that's why I've just known about the war since I was a kid, because that was my mom's first like traumatic memory was when he died, and so I'd always had a fascination with it. So I've read a lot of books on it, and I was just curious, if you ever read to try to understand stuff your dad went through, or
the most interesting thing I ever read, and I've always wanted to in a way publish it, but I want to have my family's blessing, and it was a book written by my uncle. and he was court-martialed in Vietnam. And when he got taken out, my dad had stayed on as a medic because he had a degree in psychology. But he had also had a few other degrees, but then he was like a high school basketball coach and some other stuff. And he went and got my Uncle Doug, that was my mom's brother. And it's this entire book about what he had to deal with being the youngest brother, abuse, all this other stuff. And he was caught shooting heroin, trying to deal with some stuff after what had happened to him in the war.
Yeah.
And he ran a rehab center and was doing methadone. And everything's looking up, and the book just ends because he died in the 90s when he OD'd.
Damn.
Yeah, and it's like, that to me, I found it in a shoebox when my mom died.
Wow.
And to me, it meant a lot because it really gives you this idea of this post-traumatic stress that he had while being in the war and how it always affected him. And I think that to me, and it's like nobody else has read it, but to me, I think it gives a story of like this soldier who was raised in this sort of 1950s into 60s America, like this really Americana place, and then how it turned, then it became 80s, and then it became like this whole way our culture changed.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and I really would like to one day put it out because I think it's such an important thing that I read. And and that's to me, I don't know, that just sticks out. I realize it's nothing anybody can look at, but it's important to me. And I'm trying to think of, like, I've read a lot of books of the Vietnam era.
Yeah.
The ones about soldiers specifically, I can't really think about right now.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you name some, I may have read
No,
some.
and I could give you recommendations if you're ever looking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean,
like I've always wanted
I was just curious.
You know, my brother's always wanted to write one or like do a movie or something because we've talked to so many people.
Yeah.
Over the years because they wanted to talk to us because they saw what my dad went through. Because like, dude, my dad had a halo drilled into his head.
Damn.
Like my dad was the dad to so many people in our neighborhood. Because he coached these kids in high school, but then he was a baseball coach to all of us. He ran Little League. He meant everything to so many kids.
Yeah.
So when my dad died when we were teenagers, like he was this huge part of so many people's lives that like I remember the funeral procession was like miles and miles long going to like and he's buried where like Aretha Franklin was, and it's like it was longer than that.
Yeah.
So he meant the world to people.
That's really good, man. That's what I want to like. That's the legacy that people should try to leave behind. You know, have the neighbor kid. Like we don't have any more where people know their neighbors or want to help the neighbor kids out. And I've kind of wanted to be that guy in my neighborhood. You know, I want to be the guy that the kids are comfortable with. Well, I'll tell you what though, I had to park my car. I do. It's funny you say that because I'll tell you why.
I hear you die of brain cancer.
I had.
I was also thinking not just about.
I know what you meant. Yeah, but I just thought it was funny to make it even darker.
There's so many layers.
I had these kids who live on my block, and I would work out with them in the summer, and because I had a weight set, and I said, hey, if you guys want to use it, you can. And I was sick a couple months ago, and my car was parked around the corner, and I had to go get it, and I had to like look around and make sure the kids weren't out, and then ran to my car because I knew if I walked to my car, the kids would stop me and be like, hey, play Foursquare with us, or play catch, or do this or do that. And so I ran to my car, and then I kind of felt bad because I felt bad, but then I also felt good that, me walking just down the block would, that I had to be careful because, like I said, I was sick and I couldn't, sit there. But there's not that anymore, I feel like, in neighborhoods. Some of it's rightfully so. Some people, like, found out about
I'll tell you
Johnny Gosh, and they're like, oh, I don't want any part of that, so they don't let their kids outside. But
the world I grew up in, I remember we lived on a hill, and there was like a half circle on top, half circle on bottom.
Yeah.
And we were riding down, and I fell and scratched my knee. And one of the boys took me in to see his dad to make sure it was all right. And he was like, probably 400 pounds and taking a shit. And I was like, I really don't need my knee looked at, I'm thinking. And so he's like looking at my knee and like, And I'm thinking to myself as a kid, is like, how is this dude even on? I couldn't see the toilet.
You're like,
all right, so he's shitting
this
and
man
looking,
can't
and
help
he's like,
himself. What's he gonna do
he's
for
like,
me?
the knee is fine. And then I laugh, and I'm just like, what do you even do? I mean, I'm like 8. I'm like this horrified. The door's open. Says that you're America. That's what you want back.
That's the America. Dude, make America great again.
I remember when you could walk in on your neighbors taking a shit.
Neighbor's dad taking a shit.
I just remember we had one neighbor where he brought me into his garage and we built birdhouses, but he accidentally spilled paint on my shirt, so I took it off and he took a Polaroid of me.
Oh, no.
And he's like, this will be the day we spilled the paint. And then he put the Polaroid on the wall, and it was like 30 other pictures of kids with Polaroids. And I was like, that seems weird.
Are you serious?
No. It's from an after-school special called "The Day We Spilled the Paint."
Is it really? That's a real one?
It's the funniest thing. Watch it.
Wait, is it about a guy that just kills kids?
No, he doesn't kill him, but he'll walk into like a birthday party and like, that's Mr. Richter, whatever his name is. So he brings this kid into his garage to build a birdhouse and just like throws paint on him, like not even on accident. He goes, "You better take your shirt off," and the kid does, and he grabs.
Where did they show this thing to you guys?
It was on like every channel in the 80s. And he turns around and he goes, "This is a picture for the day we'll always remember, for the day we spilled the paint." And he takes a picture of the kid without a shirt on, then takes the Polaroid and just hangs it on a wall, and there's like 50 other pictures.
Is that the end of the movie? Is that how it ends?
No, and the kid like leaves, and at the end the guy ends up getting arrested because he's been taking shirtless pictures of every kid in the neighborhood.
He just throws paint on them?
Oh, man.
Like, we're building a birdhouse, and he's like, "Whoops, I spilled paint on you."
I thought I thought it was gonna go. Number one, I didn't know it was a real thing, and I didn't know if
I couldn't help it.
The birdhouse was going to be on his pants.
There's that in the 1950s one where it's like, "Look out for homosexuals." Have you ever seen that?
No.
Oh, it's a black and white one where they're like, "See, Billy," and it's like an older guy pulls up in a car. He's got glasses on. He's like, "That is a homosexual," and he's like, "Don't get in the car with him." And the kid gets in. He's like, "He's going to take you down to the fishing pier, and they might never see you again."
Oh, they weren't wrong, though.
No, they should have listened. Look what happened. Now the whole world.
Oh, the slippery slope was a real argument.
That's what I'm saying. MAGA.
Whoever directed that was like, "I tried to warn you."
Yeah, he's like, "Look at you. Look at all of you now. Twerking, no getting your penis is cut off."
Did you ever watch like old school South?
That's a non-binary. That's what.
Yeah. Do you ever notice on like pre 9/11 South Park how they would always make fun of Vietnam vets? How?
Oh, yeah.
And like they had the guys like, "I'm scared," and I was thinking about it, and I was like, when those guys were growing up, they knew probably nothing about PTSD, so they probably just had like weird uncles and neighbors who would freak out at Thanksgiving and just think it's funny. So then they like grew up and make South Park and would just roast them, and then after 9/11, I feel like they kind of backed off of that, but they were so brutal to vets.
Well, yeah. Well, I always thought it was funny though, because we grew up with that, and I was a freshman when that show came out. Probably, yeah. And I remember, like my friend's dad had PTSD, and my dad didn't have that where it was very violent.
Yeah.
But I remember my friend's dad, like, he had to keep doors locked because he was like fighting Charlie. He thought there was helicopters screaming, and you're like, "Why are we sleeping over at your house?" like you want to go down to the fridge and sneak ice cream? Like, no.
I want to be alive tomorrow.
Yeah. Army crawl around here.
Your dad's coming behind me just covered in leaves.
So you thought South Park was like you thought that was funny?
He just jabs a knife into your Capri Sun.
Yeah, I could
for the straw.
I could never take offense to that. There was a movie where it was not another teen movie, which wasn't good, but Randy Quaid played a Vietnam vet. And I was laughing my ass off because I knew so many people's dads who were riddled with. We didn't know what it was. We just knew we called them flashbacks. That's all we remembered. They go, he has flashbacks when he sleeps, and you'd be at your buddy's house, and it's just the guy's he saw horror, and like anytime they would talk about it. My dad talked about stuff rather freely, but
Yeah.
not very in depth.
Did he have a sense of humor about it?
Yeah,
So do you think that that's what helped him cope with stuff? Was that
Big
he?
time.
Yeah.
big time.
I mean, dude, if he was a
Gallows,
medic,
gallows humor
he-
is important.
he probably, if he was a medic, dude, he probably had so many people die in front of him. It's not even funny. Yeah.
yeah. Especially if he wasn't good. I don't know.
He was just there to watch. This one would be dead about 25 minutes.
He killed more people than he saved. No, he was very, very good according to a lot of people, which is why he stayed on. They asked him to, and he didn't want to, but he did because he's he saw so much with fellow soldiers.
Yeah.
But whatever happened, he was finally taken off the active duty, and then he was like, all right, I can stay on for this because he was asked to, and then he ended up serving longer than he was supposed to.
That's interesting. Yeah.
So
that is that's
but
very
he had several medals which I didn't know until when he was buried, and they came and presented a flag, which was nice. That's almost $4 million. And and they shot guns into the
Here's
sky.
your flag and your empty shells.
Yeah, they shot off 4 guns. Other soldiers, 6 of my friends' dads jumped. Oh shit! It was at a Detroit cemetery where Aretha's buried, so there were 8 Crips shooting back.
Are you from, like, you're not from 8 Mile, right? But you've referenced 8 Mile, or are you from that area?
I am,
or?
yeah. I grew up in Grosse Pointe, which is a more upscale city, but I didn't grow up in this area that is, people hear Grosse Pointe and they go, oh, you're rich. And it's like, no. I grew up in a very nice, it was middle class as can be, and I grew up on the border of a city called Harper Woods, which is sadly now like the 7th most dangerous city in Michigan.
Oh, wow.
My driveway was Harper Woods, my house was Grosse Pointe. My parents worked very hard. Like my dad's dad left the day he was born. My dad came from nothing, and his name was Donnellan, and they changed it to Landau, a guy down the street who raised him.
Oh, wow.
And took care of him. So he never knew his father.
Damn.
And my aunt tried to always find him. And
Did they meet building a birdhouse?
They did. They met meeting birdhouse. They finally met.
I think I could only get away with throwing a joke in like that with you. That's
Oh,
why
dude,
I did it. I know, but there's some people that think
You'd
this
be
thing.
offended. I think it's hilarious. Yeah, it's like, well, dude, the guy literally walked in and saw that my grandma had twins and was like, I don't want twins, and left.
Damn.
And this is 1947.
That's his dad?
His father.
I don't want twins?
Yeah, so like my aunt's
Try
always,
again
like
next time.
trying to like find this guy, and my dad was always like, why do you want to meet this guy? I don't care. And she's like, I found him, and he's like, again, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like a man raised us who we love.
Yeah.
I don't care about this guy,
Yeah.
So and he came from Irish drunks, so my dad never, like, he did drink a bit in college or whatever, but my dad never drank. I never saw him with a beer my entire life. So whatever he felt like at that point in his life, he just never drank.
Yeah.
It wasn't his thing.
Yeah, I'd heard that. So, like in Detroit, isn't it like if you got like 10 mile, 9 mile, 8 mile, 7, and like after you get past 10, the lower the number, the worse the area is? Is that right? And then you're kind of on the outskirts of Detroit at that point?
If you got off on 8 Mile off of I-94, we were right there. So you would get off there, and it was 8 Mile, and then right at the end of that was Vernier, and that's when it got to, and we were before Vernier, just before Vernier off of 8 Mile.
Yeah.
And then when you went down 8 Mile, you get down towards like Eastland Mall, Gratiot, then past Gratiot would get a little bit worse, and it was like that dividing line between sort of this suburban area. Like Eminem is who a lot of people point to. He was from Warren, that was on one side of 8 Mile, and that was like the dividing line, and I grew up right sort of on that dividing line.
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't like, look, it wasn't rough. My parents worked very hard. It's like, but it took me 3 minutes to get to rough.
Yeah.
Like if I needed drugs, I would just get on the freeway. It was exactly a 3-minute ride, get off the exit, come back 3 minutes, get off, wait for bird calls, have a crackhead run out, sell you some dime bags.
Real bird calls?
Oh yeah. It would be like, caw, and then you go, hoo-hoo, and then they'd run out, and like it'd be 10 guys surrounded.
I thought that was just like a joke you did. No,
that's for real, man. It was a street called, Weyburn, Bewick, Maryland. It was right off the freeway that you go to different spots depending if they weren't rated.
Yeah.
But yeah, you have like 20 guys coming out and they like fluff up their bags to make them look thicker. And then they'd have like 10 in their hand. They'd be like, come on, man, this was good. Like, and you'd pick which one.
Oh, wow.
And only a couple times we'd have like guns pulled out. And they'd be like, is this money real? And we'd be like, you know, a mouthy person in the car would be like, is that gun real? And you're like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, dude,
No
whoever
kidding.
that kid was probably got killed. Right?
No, John's still alive, but I don't know how.
Yeah, he does
John,
not.
His
yeah,
name is
my
John.
buddy John is still alive, although he might watch this, but John's the kind of guy who gets sober, but then just does the right amount of GHB to walk up to the bar and then pass out. And then my friend who owns the bar has to tell the cops, like, look, he date raped himself. I have the footage.
But he doesn't drink. He doesn't drink.
Like, he's
He
that
just
guy.
hasn't got the
And
ration down.
I love him,
Perfect
but he's
guy.
like that guy where it's like, look, guys, I don't drink anymore. I did just Nick Nolte myself.
I got that Eminem song stuck in my head now where he's like, you ain't seen a mile, or what does he say? You ain't seen a effing mile road south of 10. And I don't need hell from D12 to beat it. Yeah, that song.
And that's against ICP.
Yeah, that part was, I can't remember who, was he dissing ICP at that
ICP,
part?
yeah.
What's
Yeah.
the inside scoop on their drama? Like that the
Let me give
everyone
a version and I'll
outside
have Dave correct
of
it.
Detroit. No, I want to know like the whispers of Detroit.
Well, let me tell you the outside perspective, then Dave corrects it, is what I'm thinking. I thought it was basically
All right,
just
yeah.
like typical street beef, and at one point, D12 went into a bar that ICP was at, and they hopped in their van to leave, and D12 shot him with paintball guns. I think it was just like, I just really wanted to say that part of it. I think
to ICP.
Yeah, I think it was just kind of typical street, like up and coming rappers, jealousy getting in the mix, and people saying, you know, you're not really from this area, I am, and vice versa. I mean, what's the
that's a
inside
lot of.
scoop?
That's a lot of Detroit. You have Violent J and Shaggy 2 Dope that are more from the suburbs, and they were ICP, which was Inner City Posse. And then they became Insane Clown Posse just by like adding makeup, you know, and doing stuff that was, and they formed this huge kind of a cult thing.
Dude, I just saw a juggalo in David City, just a town in the middle of Nebraska.
Oh, yeah.
One lone guy.
I'm
I
gonna pull
took
a
a picture with him. Full paint, no 2 front teeth.
Yeah.
Just a juggalo with a rat tail.
Yeah, I want to
Shaved
get
head.
my homie Jarvis has been to
Yeah.
so many.
These people walk among us.
No, but well, Isham, who is from the hood and a rapper that I liked a lot, and I've interviewed on a show I had 2 times ago, who tours with them. He's this.
That's Austin and the.
Oh, all right, yeah,
Yeah.
He's dressed as Shaggy 2 Dope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Isham, I like. He was like. He did acid rap, Gotham overcore, hardcore. Like, it was like he has an album called Kill the Fetus. Like, it's all like, but it's all tongue in cheek, like Satan rap. But it's not. He doesn't feel that way.
Yeah.
It's just absurd and like it's like his first album is him like leaning on a Mustang 5.0 wearing a Detroit hat and he's in whiteface.
Mm-hmm.
But then he's all like every single song is just about like murder and like it's over the top for shock value. But
Yeah.
I've always liked Isham because it was just something that was different. And I didn't know that I was riding my bike past his studio like every day because he was recording like
Wow.
right by he was recording on 8.5 right by my house. But from what I understand is, that was what happened. And then they released a diss track called Slim Anus.
Yeah.
And then he came back like, of course my anus is slim. I don't get fucked in mine. And then,
Yeah.
because you don't really want to go against Eminem.
No,
especially-
Yeah, and way to set him up.
yeah, I know.
Yeah,
Like,
it was very
Literally
weird.
just wrote the setup.
yeah, like, especially in his prime.
Yeah, where he was.
You're talking 20-year-old. Shady.
He would go after them so
And
hard.
Proof was still alive. And he was like, this is like sideways visor, blonde hair. I'm on every
Yeah.
pill imaginable.
Rolling with Trick. Did you listen to Trick?
Yes, very. Yes,
My
of course.
gangsters and all. David's got a couple songs with Trick.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he and Trick are homies. And what's funny, you
Trick
may or may
Trick's
not
great, dude.
appreciate this, but for whatever reason, I just saw that clip on the Opie and Anthony show. You and I don't even know the other comedian's name that kind of like lunged at you, and you're like, I ain't afraid of you. And I sent that to David Gunn today, and I texted him. I'm like, the Detroit came out of Landau in this clip, and he was like, ha 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 ha. So,
yeah, I just don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to fight in the studio.
you're just like, do you want to go to jail? Like, what are you doing? But I had an idea for a podcast with Gunn to just talk about all the good music from Michigan, because wasn't even Alice Cooper is from Michigan too, right?
Yeah. I saw him live too in an auditorium.
Oh no, I've seen him. I saw him when he opened up for Motley Crue. A couple
What year
years
was
ago.
that?
It was about 10 years ago. He was doing an auditorium in Toledo. I couldn't believe it. It was like 500 seats, and he did a show that was. It could have been,
He's amazing. He's got
Dude.
a lot of songs. People don't even realize how good his stuff is.
It was dude. He sounded like he was 18.
Yeah,
It was
he's good.
unreal, and he's doing like "Feed My Frankenstein," and he's born again, so he like.
That's why he sounds so young.
Yeah, he pulls. He pulls a lot of the sex out of it, but the horror still remains there because he wants people to still be aware of the evil. It's a lot like Isham, where it's like it's not pro satanic. He's showing you the evil of the character that he was.
Yeah,
and it's really amazing. I mean,
but.
Mind blowing, and he had that girl in the band at the time, the guitarist.
Yeah, was her name
Johnny
Nita?
Depp?
No.
Yes.
I think her name is it Nita?
Yeah, the one that wears a lot of rings and has 4,000 friendship bracelets.
I got.
all to himself.
Yeah, I'm
You're a billionaire.
Yeah, Strauss. Vanita
Yes, her.
Strauss.
She's
Yeah.
great,
Nita
dude.
Strauss. Yeah, Nita Strauss.
She's
That's what it is.
insane, dude.
No, we should have we should do that Zoom though with you and David on, just talking about all the music from Michigan. And I was talking to this guy once who was from Michigan, and I was like, dude, you guys got so many cool bands from there. And he's like, yeah, and he named off a couple, and then he goes, and the Red Hot Chili Peppers, and I go, what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they're not from Michigan though.
That's where Kiedis was
no,
born.
Anthony
in Split
Kiedis
Time.
is from. The drummer is from Michigan, and then you have the one that looks like Will Ferrell. I always blank on his name.
That's the drummer, yeah.
Yeah, and then Anthony Kiedis was from Grand Rapids, and his dad was a
actor, right? I've read Scar Tissue because I just thought
his dad was a drug dealer.
out in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So he would spend a lot of his time most in Grand Rapids, but then he would go and spend his summers with his dad. And then when he was old enough to kind of make the decision to stay out in Hollywood, he did.
Yeah.
But
I'm gonna do drugs with my dad.
But
see him
yeah, I wouldn't say that they were formed in Michigan.
Yeah, I was
But,
gonna say I
if
wouldn't claim that, but yeah.
they were both from Michigan. They both had the Michigan blood.
Yeah, have you read Scar Tissue?
I have.
Yeah,
That's how I learned that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I don't remember
They're
that
my-
aspect of
Chili
it.
Peppers
but-
are probably my favorite band.
Really, of all time.
Yeah, I could probably say that because so many core memories were formed with Californication. And by the way,
Californication is phenomenal.
yeah, that was like
Blood
the
Sugar
best
Sex
summer
Magic
of my.
was-
I love that.
Well,
Let's
I'm-
just sing "Sir Psycho Sexy" now. Just
Dude, I'll tell you what. You know what?
So psycho sexy.
Fleas
One of my
in a whole
favorite
world of his own, though.
songs-
Acid for the Children is nuts.
Is Love Roller Coaster
Okay.
from Beavis and Butthead.
Oh, dude.
Dude, we're like, wow, step right up and get your ticket. Like,
Roller
dude,
coaster,
yeah.
baby.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite songs, man. I used to come up to that all the time.
Beavis and Butthead had the best. Like they have an Ozzy Osbourne song that's unreleased, and you can only find it on like YouTube of the Beavis and Butthead soundtrack.
Really?
It's not even on Apple Music. It is like my favorite Ozzy song now. It's really good. I'm trying to think of the name of it, but yeah, it's Beavis and Butthead had great stuff.
Dude,
on
Beavis and Butthead Do America was so much fun for me to see in the theater.
Yeah.
And I remember watching the show and just not even realizing that they were crapping all over me.
Yeah, I know, dude. I know.
It's exactly our age.
We're just watching them make, but we
Yeah.
are those people.
We are the exact kids.
Yeah, "Walk on Water" is the name of the song that was by Ozzy on there. But yeah, that movie is. I watched that again a couple years ago.
There was a
It
great,
so hard
Robert
at that.
Stack is amazing in that movie where he's just like, yeah, I'd never end a sentence with a preposition. Where he's like off jerking in these.
Isn't that? Don't they say something like, "Does your girlfriend have huge boobs?" And he's like, "Yeah." When they're driving with that guy, I'm trying to where they think that he's setting him up or whatever with his girlfriend. I forget the plot, but
were they going to Vegas? Is like
they're like driving with that guy and they're asking him about his girlfriend because they think that the guy's gonna let him bang his girlfriend or whatever. But they're trying
the
to.
old woman is like, "There's lots of loose sluts there," and they're like, "Yeah, loose sluts, yeah, It's just obnoxious.
Aren't you them two boys I caught whacking it in my tool shed?
Yeah,
I gotta go back to the Eminem and ICP deal for a minute because when ICP came to Omaha and played at the Ranch Bowl, a bunch of Eminem fans came and threw M&Ms at him until they snapped and like jumped into the crowd and their manager choked like a 14-year-old till he blacked it out. Yeah, you can look at it. It's still on like MTV News.
Really?
Yeah. The article's like they were throwing M&Ms at him.
Dude, that's the thing is like
south and the giant, like his manager was huge, or one of their roadies just choked him on the bus.
It was funny because like Eminem got really mad about stuff like for no reason a few times. Like he got mad at Triumph the Insult Comic Dog.
Yeah, I remember they like punched it or whatever.
Yeah, so finally like he did the Crank Yankers with Jim Florentine to kind of like make up for it because he felt bad that he was flying off the handle, but people didn't realize at the time he was really he was a drug addict, and his serotonin's just dropping every day from all the he's doing every night.
Yeah, And now he said that he just took like pain pills and watched the movie Rocky 300 dozen times.
Yeah,
that's where he was in between albums.
No, and it's like he still managed. His daughter's doing very well. He still managed to like get his life together, and it's he just came out in Detroit at like an Ed Sheeran concert and was like, it was crazy. Like he's still a beast.
Dude.
He live in Detroit still?
He sold his giant Kmart house. I don't know what he bought, but he bought the CEO of Kmart's house, which is like the biggest house in Michigan, and then finally he sold it. But I know Haley Jade is like engaged, and like it's interesting to see because just living there, like I remember her being this like little girl, and a lot of times when people want to visit, they want to go see the house he was raised in that's boarded up. And has gotten progressively worse. I think I don't even know it's still there right now, but it was. Because when they put out the Marshall Mathers 2 LP, it was still there but boarded up.
Yeah, that a bunch of people went in there and did drugs.
Oh yeah, well, but people wanted their pictures on the step.
Hell yeah.
But I mean, when I lived in California, I went to Bradley Noel's grave because it was in Huntington Beach, and we had heard about it when we got there. There was just a guy and a girl taking bong rips on the grave. And then one of them gets a call because we're like, hey, what's up? And the dude's like, oh, we're just over at Bradley's right now. That's a corpse in the ground, dude. You're not over at Bradley's. And then they dug a little hole and poured the bong water into it. And we're like, later, guys. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, I'm like in California for the first 3 months. I'm like, this is nuts.
Yeah.
I hate you all.
You should watch that documentary, The Allens, because it opens up with Gigi Allen's brother going to his grave while dude's like pissing on it. And he's like, hey, that's my brother's grave.
Yeah, you're like, he would have wanted this.
Yeah, which we talked about that last time. You're like, his brother's.
It was the one I've seen. I've never seen The Allens.
It's on, I think it's on Tubi, so you can watch it for free.
Okay.
But yeah, it was an insane documentary, but yeah, they open it up with just like pictures of people shitting on his brother's grave and taking a piss on it, and he's like, hey, don't do that. And it's like, dude, your brother let people do that to his body while he was alive.
Yeah, he cares. Like, hey, he didn't kill himself on stage. He deserves this.
I had at my band's last show,
especially his brother who made him.
At my band's last show, we have this song that's kind of punk rock, and I'm like, hey, do you guys like punk rock? And people are like, yeah. And I go, this next song I'm gonna dedicate it to Gigi Allen. Someone bring out the hot dogs. And like nobody got it, but then afterwards one kid went up to me and was like, I understood that, and that made me laugh really hard. And I'm like, thank you. Like I like the jokes that only one guy will understand.
Yeah, now you know what it's like to do stand up.
Yeah, that's like the best thing when one person will be like, I understood what you meant, and that was funny.
Yeah, Gigi Allen's one of those people that you might tell somebody about who's like not in a loop of that, and then they'll tell you they saw it and then never speak to you again.
Yeah.
Like, why would you tell me of this?
Did you guys ever see the movie Gummo?
Yeah.
Gummo?
It was made by the director of Kids.
Isn't the Kids like a super messed up movie?
Yeah, it's terrible.
When it came out, it was very terrifying because I remember seeing it right when it came out on video. We rented it because I was a skateboard poser, but my friends knew how to skate.
Yeah.
And we watched it because it was all about that. It's like a kid Casper, and he's just basically you just find out he's giving everyone AIDS through the whole movie.
Jeez, dude. Yeah, I pulled it back
even when
up.
they're passed out.
And then, the other movie he did was with 2 Disney girls.
It was the prequel to Philadelphia.
I thought, didn't that guy have like a decent movie though? I'm looking up.
Oh, I'm
his,
sure he did.
the
I mean, Kids
director.
wasn't a bad movie. I mean,
Dude, that guy that he just made The Beach
did he?
with Matthew McConaughey.
Okay.
I'm
No, I
pretty
mean
sure
he's
that's the same
made.
guy. And I didn't really like The Beach.
I don't
It's too
recognize
weird.
any of
There
any of his
was
other
a movie
movies
though
he's
where James
Maybe he
Franco
wrote
was
it.
in, and James
That's-
Franco's playing like a pimp, and
Oh,
he's got like the girls from the Disney movie that are in bathing suits the whole time.
And then
it's really uncomfortable.
Yeah, and he's got cornrows. He looks like the rapper. The rapper said that he stole him off. What's the rapper's name? Like Rizzle Razzle.
Oh, talking about
He's got the big shades.
Yeah,
he's
he's
from
got the
Florida.
giant shades.
that guy's
from
on
Florida.
Theo Vaughn like every week, I think. What's his name? Riff Raff.
Riff Raff,
Yeah.
Rizzle
Right.
Razzle. That was close.
Riff-raff.
He's dressed like him,
Thank God
and
you're
then
here.
James Franco's like, I did this movie for free so I could touch your.
Yeah, there's a guy who's not been held to.
Dude, it's kind of like
fire.
Yeah, that's kind of like
he
the.
snuck away.
Did you guys watch? I'm sure you have Requiem for a Dream. Did it hit
Oh,
you guys
yeah.
like that too?
I hated that.
Oh, I saw that movie.
I
when
was
it
so disgusted
Came out
with
as
Earth.
well, and we showed it to our. I used to work at this place called the War Memorial, and it was a great job. They had weddings and stuff, and we would set up the weddings, get high and drunk and whatever, have to bring in tables, and then at the end of the night we would break it down. So there was a giant theater there, and we just smoked cigarettes and weed and watch movies. So Requiem came out, and we were like, this is nuts. And like Keith David at the very end, who's, like Keith David is great in everything.
Yeah.
But especially when it's like, I don't just take this out for air. But at the end when they're going ass to ass.
Yes, that was. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Very
dude.
disturbing.
Yeah.
But we showed our boss it. We're like, you should watch Requiem for a Dream with us. It's great. So he's drinking through it. He projectile vomits at the end of the movie, like when it's hitting like so hard.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it. And he was like a bit older. He projectile vomits, and he's like mad at us the rest of the night. He's like that felt like a roller coaster, like a disgusting roller coaster. Like he was just angry at us. For
Yeah,
like
dude.
A week. It was like I think it was like 2000, 2001. But he just goes like all over these like velvet chairs.
Yeah.
That's a good. That's what that's movie. That's a legit reaction.
It's
to that
just
movie.
like
Yeah, he was horrified
he vomited on him.
because he was so just sitting there watching it all intense the whole time, and then it's just like
insane.
grandma's brain fried, ass to ass, like he couldn't take it.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's
This is like the perfect. It's the perfect metaphor for Hollywood movies.
yeah. Oh, it is, and it was. He was so angry at us after that. He's like, I don't know why you
man.
guys. I don't see how that's a movie.
I don't know. There
I
is.
liked it personally, but it's just because I do enjoy Darren Aronofsky's. I don't like him with a budget.
Yeah.
Once you give him Noah and you give him The Fountain, it's crap. But then when you strip him to an off-Broadway play like The Whale, it's good.
Yeah, there's it's kind of almost like Natural Born Killers, where they were trying to write this movie to showcase how out of control the media was over violence, right, and how they made these serial killers into celebrities. But then it's still like in turn, I don't know if it does that, if it just puts more negative shit out in the world, like with Requiem, or if you hear people in the military that they would always watch all these anti-war movies of Vietnam, but they would watch those and be like, yeah, let's go to war, and then go to, you know what I mean? And I think about that as like, as artists you can make something really dark to try to like give a warning, but does it work, or are you just putting more darkness into the earth? Do you guys get what I'm saying?
I think
Have you
both.
thought about that?
Yeah.
I mean, I do dark comedy, but it's based on my life, and I think calling it out in a lot of ways is a good thing because you can relate to people. It depends on how it's done. I think when you're doing it where it is in a way frightening like that, it can put more darkness out, but you also have to look at, okay, in that movie, Marlon Wayans is brilliant. And Marlon Wayans is, to me, already very, very funny.
Yeah.
Because, like, Don't Be a Menace is one of the funniest movies I've ever seen. I don't care
You guys
what
want some
anybody
cheeseburgers?
says. Yeah, it's like
Sex. Hell yeah.
but it's still like he's like, I suck your dick,
Dude, I
He's
think
like,
the first two scary movies are
they're great.
She's like,
Yeah.
Real quick, have you guys heard that song where he samples "Don't Be a Menace," where it's like, "Now, children, what do you say when you meet a nice man?"
Yeah.
It's like,
Are you
that,
my daddy?
Have you heard that song that's like, "That baby don't look like me," and the whole song is like naming off different rappers. Have you heard that song?
Yeah.
I love that song. But anyway, keep
No,
going.
it's great. No, it's I grew up on. I watched In Living Color with my dad every week.
Yeah.
And I grew up on I'm Gonna Get You, Sucker. And then we watched. My dad brought me to the theater to see me as my friend, Dave Kennedy, and my dad, and we're watching Don't Be a Menace. And Rod, the cop.
Dude, your dad was awesome.
Oh, dude, he's great. And like the cops are playing Rodney's Ride, where they're beating the shit out of this dude, and we're on 8 Mile in Detroit. And no one's laughing. And me and my friend Dave are losing our shit because no one's laughing. Because we weren't even laughing so much at the joke, just at how tense it was in the theater.
Yeah.
And just the fact, this is right after Rodney King.
Yeah.
So like we were just laughing at like how the balls it took to go there. And they're walking past Rodney's Ride and he just goes, "We got arrested for being black on a Friday night." But even though, like, it's just so fun, and just the cheapness of just like, yeah, I'll suck your dick. What'd you say? Yeah. I'll suck your dick. And then he's like coming around, and the guy's licking his fingers, and Marlon's pulling up his pants. He goes, "All right, you want to go down there and take a left?"
Yeah, that movie is filthy.
But like when you see Marlon play this heroin addict who's in prison,
Yeah.
and he's done at the end, and then Jared Leto's getting his arm sawed off.
and like
there's
pimping out his girlfriend and.
But you're saying there's no beauty to this anymore. Like this is all a result of drug addiction.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that was the point of the end of the movie. Like it wasn't about glamorizing drug addiction. It was like this woman is incapable of taking care of herself, but now she's in this position because her son couldn't take care of her because of the heroin addiction.
Yeah.
Her son's getting the arm chopped off.
Yeah.
Everything became ugly and destroyed because of this addiction. And I thought it was a brilliant look at it.
Yeah.
And like when you really break it down to what it was, and that's why it's called Requiem for a Dream. It's the death of a dream. It's the death of your life. And
Yeah.
it was all focused on addiction. And I think that's beautiful.
Have you read the book?
No.
I own it. I haven't read it. It's kind of, I tried to read it, but there's like no punctuation or quotes or anything like that because it's kind of confusing to read, kind of because it's kind of how in the movie they're out of their mind, you know, and so it's like that when you read it. But yeah, no, that's interesting. Like I told Austin, I never dabbled with drugs because I read Nikki Sixx's Heroin Diaries when I was like 14. Have you read those?
Yes.
He's, crawling through a garden naked with the shotgun, and I read that. I'm like, okay, so drugs are obviously counterproductive.
Oh my God, dude. And yeah, and it's like those books will like intertwine sometimes. Like
Yeah.
if you read Slash's book, you'll see other pieces and then
Yeah,
you go
man.
through and
Yeah.
you're like, and then you have Motley Crue, The Dirt, which although I believe is slightly over-exaggerated, I think is a brilliant book.
Oh yeah,
You know,
oh, yeah.
and then you see how all these different rockers' books are all like, oh my God, you all are just deviant monsters.
Well, like look, I was thinking about this.
I mean, Steven Tyler like adopts a girl and just flies her around until she's pregnant, gets her abortion, and gives her coke while she's at the hospital and leaves.
Yeah.
It's like
Is that in Walk This Way? Is that
That is.
and now he's
I
a
don't know, that's just his
lovely,
real life.
lovely nana.
But there was
It's a lovely nanny.
Nana.
So like think about how this stacks up. So in like Duff McKagan's book, at the peak of Duff McKagan's addiction, he parties with Tommy Lee, and he says like I couldn't hang with Tommy, and Tommy wasn't even known as like the worst partier, right?
I read that one, but it's amazing. Oh yeah, Tommy.
And then I think in The Dirt they talk about how when they were partying with Ray from The Doors, and they were like, we couldn't even hang with that dude, and if that dude was bad, how bad was Jim Morrison? So you're right. It's interesting how they all like intertwine.
Well, that was
read all
because
those
he was
books
a
in high
washed
school.
up organ player. Shit about it.
He's just in the corner like,
You guys need an organ?
yeah.
No, Ray.
No.
Please go away.
Shut up, Ray.
He's in the church.
Yeah,
he's just
Besides that, is the church lady
you guys need an organ player,
playing
right?
the organ.
Yeah. Are you guys taking an organist? Where would we get? We don't have room for an organ.
Yeah.
I also,
Could you imagine Ray Manzarek? He's just playing baseball games. But like he's got like melted candles and shit.
And just like the Doors, he plays too much.
And it's like,
They do it at night.
it's like a haunting,
Yeah.
like a fucking ball game.
Dun, dun, dun. Like too much, Ray. Just back it. We just need it at the beginning.
Primal screams. All right, well, dude, tell us.
It's the most disrespectful national anthem.
You made it about you, Ray.
Yeah.
You made it about you.
This isn't about this country, Ray.
We have veterans in the crowd, Ray.
These people are standing. It's been 16 minutes.
My best friend died in Nam, and you're out here playing the organ.
His fingers are bleeding.
Yeah.
He's like, play. You just keep screaming. Play every show like it's your last.
What?
They're trying to pull him away.
Yeah, he's like, we're all vultures.
I want to make that movie. That's his post Doors. It picks up after Jim Morrison's death.
Yeah, because he wrote that book about like Jim Morrison not being dead or whatever. So we need to write the book about Ray post Doors just playing at baseball games.
The hilarious if Jim Morrison wasn't like who he would be right now.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's that conspiracy. He's like a mechanic or whatever. It's like, dude,
Yeah.
he wasn't. If he was gonna be in the Doors, he wasn't gonna be a mechanic in Oklahoma.
Well, he wouldn't be good at it.
Yeah, I know. He'd be like,
What is
oil?
Yeah.
He'd be,
He'd be pissing in the gas tank.
I took off all your wheels.
do we drive the cars or do the cars drive us? I don't know, man. I really just need my oil changed and I just need to go.
Yeah, really, please. I put 4 windshield wipers on your car. Why? How?
I took the doors off of your car. Why would you do that,
Because
dude?
the doors, they're only for perception.
Can you put them back on? Do you still have the parts?
Actually, in the dumpster in the back.
He's selling them while you're sitting there reading them.
He's hanging from the garage door screaming like he's got those lifters that they work on. They're just screaming. You're reading a magazine in the background. He's like in the movie off the balcony.
He's just rubbing himself on your car. Did you change the oil? I did stuff to it. I made it better.
Yeah, I made it better. What is oil, man?
Yeah. Or does the oil change us? No, I just need my oil
it
changed.
doesn't.
Don't make this weird.
What do I owe you? What's currency, man? Yeah. I don't want to come here anymore.
What is.
And in the waiting room, the only like reading stuff there are his poems, so you're just confused. Dude, anybody who reads his poetry and says that it's good is an asshole.
I just see him doing
His
like
poems and pencil drawings of tits.
someone comes in with their needs a new transmission. They look out the waiting room and there and is just dancing around it like a shaman with incense and drums.
I,
He just gets in the car and backs it out and pulls. He's like, it's all set.
I saw a dead Native American. That's why I'm this way. It's like, no, it's not, you stupid asshole.
Your car's sad from seeing the dead family of Native Americans.
Your car now ran on the spirits of those American Indians.
I don't think.
No, it's still making that grinding noise, Jim.
I think it's a hanging lifter. You just gotta lift the thing up and adjust it. It's very common in Buicks.
There you go. There's a good skit.
Yeah.
That's a good skit.
Jim Morrison, the mechanic.
Jimmy Morrison.
Because he would
Quick
be
lube.
fat, overweight,
Yeah.
with his ass crack out.
And just old.
Yeah.
Just coming out like, read one of my poems. I'll just look at my phone.
The manager's like, yeah, this fucking guy thinks he's a poet.
Yeah.
It's
Who is
Jim
he?
Morrison.
It's Jim
Oh, if he
Morrison.
wasn't Jim Morrison, nobody would ever put those poems out there because they make no sense.
Yeah, it's like,
It's kind of wild.
just don't tell him, to everybody that he's here. Does he do good work? No.
I told
done.
Austin in the last episode though that he looked like Will Ferrell's character in the More Cowbell skit, like when he had the beard.
Yeah,
and
I
black.
think
That's
Will Ferrell
exactly.
better do
I'll show you the
That's not a
side by
bad
side.
thing.
Yeah.
No, that I did. No, he's saying Jim Morrison looked like that.
I'll show.
You
I'll
look a
show
little
you
bit
the
like you
side by
could be
side.
in it though in the 70s.
Well, I'm just trying.
I got a mullet. I think we're both rocking it right
Yeah,
now.
dude, I think so too.
I'm the only one mullet, or well, I don't know. You don't really
We're all
have a
rocking
mullet.
it.
You
This
just look
could
like Wyatt
definitely-
Earp.
Yeah.
This could be the 80s.
Yeah, I wish it was. I wish this shit was on analog, like one of those old tape
Oh,
players.
for sure. Jim Morrison's recording it.
Yeah, well, we could say more slurs, so there'd be that.
Everybody's fine with it. So, yeah.
You're like, they're just saying what?
We're all just
nowadays.
smoking cigarettes and
Oh, just a cloud of smoke.
yeah,
Don't worry, I got lights. We aren't going to die now.
just pinching tushies.
Yeah. Just hiring women to have sex with. It's an intern, honey.
Wait out there. Wait outside.
When radio made you a star and everyone wasn't on the radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it was
Literally.
like you had to go to college for it, learn things.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't just anybody.
Yeah, dude, that I know, man. It's everyone has a mic, but then I'm glad that it is something
Yeah.
that everybody gets, because then, we could have cool conversations.
About Jim Morrison being a mechanic for 10 minutes straight,
Right,
That's
that's
what the
hilarious.
people are missing out on. Well, what else? So you got
That's-
Normal World on the
Yes.
Blaze.
Yeah, talk about Normal World, and then we got to wrap it up because there's only like 3 minutes left on the Dusty.
Oh, okay. Well, this was a pleasure.
Yeah.
We got to catch up more. I very much enjoyed it. Yeah, Normal World. Please check it out. You can go to youtube.com/@normalworld. That's the ampersand. Is that it? No,
Something
that's
like
not
that.
the ampersand. It's the @ sign.
If they don't
Normal
know how to type in to YouTube Normal World, then do you
Yeah.
want them as a fan? Because they're going to leave a stupid comment if they.
God, I hate those people. And then also you can go to Blaze, and if you want to, blazetv.com, you can subscribe, and that is use code NORMAL20, NORMAL20, and you can get 20% off an annual subscription, and we're going to start doing a lot of stuff just for you guys behind the paywall, like
Sweet.
movie reviews,
Good.
and we're going to watch movies and rip on them, that sort of stuff. Good, fun stuff right there on blazetv.com.
Can Austin and I come on, watch Requiem for a Dream, and projectile vomit?
I
I
probably
don't think-
will
I don't
actually do that.
I don't think we can get the rights to that one, but you'd be surprised the ones we've been able to get the rights to.
Very good.
There's a lot of Fast and the Furious direct-to-DVD movies
Oh, yeah.
that tried
Yeah.
to be those that are spectacular that we're trying to get the rights to.
Oh, that's awesome.
We got Samurai Cop, and then it turned out that MST3K decided to do it, so they just spiked up, and I was like, damn
Dude,
it.
did you ever see? I've never seen this movie because I don't even think I'd be able to handle sitting through it. I just saw it on HBO Max. Jay Leno and then the Karate Kid
Yeah.
Master.
Yeah.
Is that a good flick or is
No.
it absurd?
Dude, that's like asking if the movie with Dennis Rodman and
Pat
John Clyde
Morita
Van
and
Damme is a
Jay
good
Leno?
movie.
No, it's not good. You mean when they're both handcuffed together and no. It's absolutely not. Why do you think Jay Leno's not a movie star?
They just feel like you gotta.
Yeah, they were like
the desk guy.
Yeah, the big chin guy and the tiny Asian. No, it's
Yeah,
terrible.
Who put that shit together?
Oh no, you could watch it though.
Yeah.
Oh, it's garbage.
That's
It's
awesome.
basically it's Rush Hour, but then they made it's just before they had a black guy.
That
They were
small
like-
Asian is performing well in the karate movies.
Well, basically, they watched 48 Hours and they were like, "Do we have $16?"
Who's that guy with the chin I saw last night at the
they're-
Improv?
Yeah, he was good. I think one day he'll be big.
As big as his chin.
Who else could we get? The drunken Vietnamese fella from the Karate Kid.
Yeah.
Is he Vietnamese? Who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. Will
He's,
he beat
the,
up
he's the
kids?
reason that movie
Yes.
is big, right?
Yes.
Will he come home drunk and land on a child who he's teaching to catch a fly with chopsticks?
Yeah. Yes, I hammered. Catch fly.
Yeah. Do my house chores for a whole movie and then crane kick, the most obvious thing you could do to win a fight.
Yeah, that movie is absurd.
Yeah.
Well, thank you everyone for listening. This is Toolshed Art Club. Dave, we definitely need to have you on
What's
more.
the art
There's so
challenge?
much we can do. Oh, do we have time to do an art challenge on it?
Yeah, we got to just.
So we try to do an art challenge every to have Jim Morrison be a mechanic. That's what so we want people to make art of some sort. It could be a song, it could be a painting, a drawing, whatever, a sculpture. That'd be cool. But I think that we should do
chainsaw.
We should do like Jim Morrison as a mechanic. That'd be a really good art
Please,
challenge. Could be a song, could be a drawing, whatever. But yeah, that'd be sweet.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
I may even do a sketch.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, everyone
Yeah,
is.
of auto mechanic Jim Morrison.
Yeah, do it. I'm gonna do one too. Then let's all. We should.
But we got to do. Yeah, we also need to do a sketch of the Ray at the ballpark. That'd be a good one too.
Oh, that would really be
just haunting. I just picture almost like Phantom of the Opera, but like it's only his corner.
Yeah.
Then like the normal sports guy that grew up with a good family is like
just a church or a wedding.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening.
Ball.
They're like, this is baptism.
All right. Well, let's wrap it there while we're still laughing. Thank you guys for watching.